Hello students, this is Shiv Prakash and today you will study here 7th lesson of Beehive, that is packing. So before you read here, I would like to tell about something, the lesson, that is packing. The lesson has been extracted from the novel, that is Three Men in a Boat, and it is written by Jerome K. Jerome. Here the novel is about three men, including the writer, who are willing to go to a trip, and that's why they decide that through what or where to go. So the whole thing is chaotic. The decision of going, that where to go and how to go, and after that there comes the talking of packing. Then what happens? This is the part which you are going to read. So packing is also here a chaotic condition, and how it is done you will study here. But before you read here, something is given, and these questions will help you to understand more about the lesson. So what are the questions? Do you like going on trips? What kind of trips do you enjoy most? So this question is up to you. The place where you want to go and how you want to go, these all things are up to you, and you must answer these questions. How do you feel about having to pack for a trip? How have you ever discovered on a trip that you have forgotten to pack a few things you very much need, or that you can't find them easily? Does this make you angry, or does it make you laugh at yourself? So whenever it comes about packing, then it is very important that you must organize all the things you want in your journey. So whatever you need first, it will be packed at the top of the your bag, luggage, whatever you carry, your suitcase, briefcase, whatever. So these all things must be organized in order to not make your journey chaotic. So what happens whenever you forget anything to carry, that is very important, and that you find very much irritating, or you can purchase there. These all things are necessary, which must be uh, kept in mind before packing, that you should organize the things, you should list out the things whatever you have to keep, and what is the what is the things that first need, and then after you will need that. These all things be organized. But what happens here, in very humorous way they start packing, and their chaotic condition make a kind of humor in the mind of reader. So this is the lesson you are going to study. Now read the lesson and you will find it very humorous. I said I would pack. I'd rather pride myself on packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. They fell into the suggestions with a readiness that had something uncanny about it. George spread himself over the easy chair and Harris cocked his legs on the table. So, when they was about to start their journey, they started packing. Then they thought that who would pack the bag. So on that, the writer Jerome and here are three persons, that Jerome himself and George and Harris are his two friends who are going to the trip with the writer. So he says that he would do entire packing because he is very best in packing, and that's how they both thought. George and Harris thought that all the packing will be done by the author himself, and they made themselves easy, and one sat on the chair and the next one spread his legs on the table, and they became very much relaxed that packing will be done by the author, that is Jerome. But what happens next? Let's find out. This was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job, and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions, I pushing them aside every now and then with, "Oh, you, here, let me do it. There you are, simple enough." Really teaching them, as you might say, they're taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I'm working. So when you have read in first passage that he said that he would pack the whole thing and the total responsibility came to him, but he was actually not mean in that he would pack the entire things, because he wanted to boss everyone, because he says here that he was not intended to pack all these things, but he would supervise all these things, that uh, George and Harris would pack the things and he would instruct them how to pack, and occasionally he would do something that pushing them aside, that you should do it like that, or you let me do it like that. He wanted to supervise them and only instruct them, but they thought that the writer would do it by his own. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him really real good to look on at me messing about. Now I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my hands in my pocket and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help him. So here you can say that you can see that humorously he says that means it is a kind of satire, that here he told a story about a man who always sat relaxed by relaxing himself on the sofa lazily. He sat there lazily and just watched him working for hours, and he did nothing. So whenever the writer says that whenever anyone is like that, whoever is sitting lazily there and did nothing, so it irritated the writer very much. And he is not so. He says that he is not so. He just put his hands on his in his pocket and keeps on walking and telling other that you have to do like that, and whatever you have to do and whatever you have not to do. So this is how he says that this is his energetic nature. Actually he does not want to work but to instruct, and in such a way he wants to prove himself that he is very energetic in nature, but actually he is not. So next, however, I did not say anything but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be. But I got the bag finished at last, and I sat on it and strapped it. "And you going to put the boots in?" said Harris. And I looked round and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I had got the bag shut and strapped, of course. And George laughed, one of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. And he thought it to be a longer duty than he thought earlier. So, however, he finished the packing, the work of packing, and he strapped it, means he bounded the whole backpack. And at the last, when he locked and strapped the bag, Harris said bemockingly at him that won't you keep your boots in? So what happened? Jerome had forgotten to keep it inside the bag, and when he saw it round, then he found that he forgot it. And on that, George laughs heartily. Actually, they both were bemocking at him because he was packing, and they both were relaxing. And the laugh of George made the writer very much irritating, and he became so wild. The next, I opened the bag and packed the boots in. Then, just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. I packed my toothbrush. I don't know how is it, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold precipitation and get out of bed and hunt for it. And in the morning, I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So I think the toothbrush is one of the most horrible thing for the writer, because what happens, he packed it and he forgot about the toothbrush, whether he has packed it or not. This is the main thing, which the main mistake you can say the author always does. What happens, he says that he the toothbrush and the tongue cleaner, about which he is saying that it is a kind of misery for him in his whole life. That is a kind of misery, because whenever he is he is planning to go somewhere, then what happens, he dreamt about it that he hasn't packed the toothbrush, and in the night he wakes up and he hunts for it and get it packed. But what happens, he keeps it at the bottom of the bag, and in the morning he again searches for it and finds that it is at the last of the bag, and the whole things must be kept out of the bag. Then what happens, he packs all these things, all the things whichever kept out of the bag, but forgets to keep the brush in the bag. And what happens? Then again, he has to carry it in the pocket handkerchief whenever he is going somewhere. So next is, of course, I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course I could not find it. I rummaged the thing up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created. And when chaos reigned, of course I found George and Harris 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot and I repacked once more. So, what happens? This time, it was whatever I have told, it was the past events, and here, what happens? He takes out everything, each and everything out of the bag, and again puts them back. 18 times he has done it, and he has found the toothbrush process of George and Harris 18 times, but he could not find his own toothbrush. And finally, where he finds his toothbrush? Inside the boot. And how can anyone can brush by the toothbrush with the toothbrush which is inside the boot? So it is, you can say, very hilarious. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't. I slammed the bag shut and strapped it, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. It got shut up finally at 10:05 p.m. and then there remained the hampers to do. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better do the rest. And I agreed and sat down, and they had a go. Then what happens? When he packed this time everything, and George reminds him that, have you kept the soap in? So in irritation he says that I don't care about the soap whether it is inside or outside of the bag, and he slams the bag and shut it and strapped it. And after packing the bag again, he found that his spectacles are inside the bag which he has packed with the rest of the articles which he wanted to carry to his journey. And he had to reopen it because without spectacles he was not able to see clearly. And at 10:05 p.m. the packing was final, and they have to pack food after that. So Harris and George said that the rest of the work, that about food, they will do. So the writer sat down for rest. They began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. I made no comment. I only waited with the expectation of George. Harris is the worst packer in the world. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc. I felt that the things would soon become exciting. So they started packing, the food items in a basket. They were doing it very lightheartedly. Why? Because they wanted to show the writer that they are the good packer. So the author was waiting for the chaotic condition that was going to be started. And he was looking at the plates, cups, saucer, kettles, bottles, jars, and everything, whatever was there. And something was to be started there. So it did. They started with breaking a cup. That was the first thing they did. And the expectation came to the ground that they broke the cup. And that's how they start packing. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of tomatoes and squashed it, and they had to pick out the tomatoes with a teaspoon. So they said that they wanted the attraction of the writer, so they broke the cup, but actually by mistake they broke the cup because they were not good packers. And what Harris did, Harris packed the strawberry jam on the top of tomatoes. You know very well that tomatoes are delicate, and if any heavy thing can be is kept on it, then but obvious these tomatoes will be smashed. And what happened, they squashed, and they had to pick the tomatoes with a teaspoon. And then it was George's turn, and he trod on the butter. He didn't say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table, watched them. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that it made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things and put things behind them and then couldn't find them when they wanted them. And they packed the pies at the bottom and put heavy things on the top and smashed the pies in. So what happens, the chaotic condition started, and it started again with that George, he kept his leg on the butter. And now you can see, like in the picture, he kept his feet on the butter and smashed it. Then what happens, the writer sat on the corner of the table and watched each and everything. And perhaps it was the most irritating thing for both of them that the writer was sitting at the table lazily. So what they did, both of them kept the things behind them, and then after find wanted to find about it, but they could not find as it was kept behind them. And they packed pies at the bottom because pies are delicate, and whenever you keep heavy things on the pies, it gets smashed. And again, like tomatoes, it also get smashed. They upset salt over everything and such. And as for the butter, I never saw two men do more with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. After George had got it off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. They did scrape it out at last and put it down on a chair, and Harris sat on it, and it stuck to him, and they went looking for it all over the room. So what happened next? As they had the salt, and they spread the salt on each and everything, means there was raining salt, you can say, because they spread it everywhere. And with the butter, what man can do with the butter, it's the most hilarious thing which has happened here. George got off his slipper and wanted the butter of his slipper, and he wanted to keep it in the kettle, but he was not able to do it. But what happens at last? However, he scrapped it and kept it on the chair, and where Harris came and sat on it, and the butter stuck on his back of the trousers. I will take my oath, I put it down on that chair, said George, staring at the empty seat. I saw you do it myself not a minute ago, said Harris. So, what happens? They started looking for the butter which was kept on the chair, but it was on the back of the Harris, which was stuck there. And on that, George said that I don't know where you have kept the butter. And Harris said, not a minute ago, he just put it at the chair. Then they started round the room again looking for it, and then they met again in the center and stared at one another. Most extraordinary thing I ever heard of, said George. So mysterious, and said Harris. Then George got round at the back of Harris and saw it. Why, here it is all the time, he exclaimed indignantly. Where? He cries Harris, spinning round. Stand still, can't you? Roared George, flying after him, and they got it off and packed it in the teapot. So that's what they were doing. They were searching it for throughout the room, but they were not able to that was not able to be found. But what happens when George moved back to toward the Harris? Then he found that it was at the bottom of Harris, and he exclaimed that here it has been forever, and he kept it in the teapot. How can they eat that butter which has such things happened with it? Montmorency. Now here comes the role of Montmorency, who is a dog, and he also adds some mischiefs and creates a kind of chaotic condition. So Montmorency was in it all. Of course, Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and may be sawn at. If he can squirm in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted, and be a perfect nuisance and make people mad and have things thrown at his head, then he feels his day has not been wasted. So about Montmorency, that he always that here for dog he is used, so he is always keeps himself at the way of anyone's work. Whenever anyone doing something, he goes there and makes some nuisance. And whenever people become irritated, they throw something on his head, and he is got scalded after that. Then only the dog, that is Montmorency, feels that his day is completed, whenever he has been scalded and he has been beaten. to get somebody to stumble over him and curse him steadily for an hour is his highest aim and object. And when he has succeeded in accomplishing this, his conceit becomes quite unbearable. And whenever anyone who abuses him for hours, for long hours, then it was his highest aim that to be listen to be abused, and that thing would be very pride for him whenever he was abused. So next here, he came and sat down on things just when they were wanted to be packed, and he labored under the fixed belief that whenever Harris or George reached out their hands for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. He put his legs into the jam and he worried the teaspoon, and he pretended that the lemons were rats and got into the hamper and killed three of them before Harris could land him with a frying pan. So here Montmorency also adds some nuisance whenever anything was to be packed, and he gets there and sat on it, and whenever Harris or George stretches their arm to the thing, he always puts his damp wet nose to the hand of George or Harris. And the hamper, that is the basket where all the things were kept, to the lemon he thought that it was rat, and he killed three of them. Three of them means he smashed the three lemons until or unless Harris threw a pan over him. Harris said, I encouraged him. I didn't encourage him. A dog like that doesn't want any encouragement. It's the natural original sin that is born in him that makes him do things like that. The packing was done at 12:50, and Harris sat on the big hamper and said he hoped nothing would be found broken. George said that if anything was broken, it was broken, which reflection seemed to comfort him. He also said he was ready for bed. We were all ready for bed. Harris was to sleep with us that night, and we went upstairs. So Harris said that the writer encouraged the dog to do the things to create nuisance, but the writer said that dog like that never want any kind of encouragement, because he has born mischiefs, means he is born with a kind of mischief, that is, it is the original sin that he has from his birth. And finally the packing was done at 12:50, and they all wanted to go to bed. So on that WhatsApp, Harris sat on the hamper, that is on the food items, and said that anything would not be broken. But George, in addition, said that if anything is broken, then let it be broken. Nothing is there. So they went upstairs to sleep. We tossed for beds, and Harris had to sleep with me. He said, do you prefer the inside or outside, Jay? I said, I generally prefer to sleep inside a bed. Harris said it was odd. George said, what time shall I wake you, fellow? Harris said, 7. I said, no, 6, because I wanted to write some letters. Harris and I had a bit of a row over it, but at last split the difference and said 6:30. means they were about to sleep, and they started talking about the time, at what time they would get up. So one said that, Harris said that 7, and George said that 6. But what happens? The matter fixes at between, that is 6:30. So we said wake us at 6:30. George means George was going to get them awake. George made no answer. It means George was sleeping already, and we found on going over that he had been asleep for some time, so we placed the bath where he could tumble into it on getting out in the morning and went to bed ourselves. And they when they found that George was sleeping, so they kept a bathtub beside them, that in the morning whenever he would awake, he would just as he would awake, he would just be dropped at the bathtub, and he would be smashed in the morning. So after that they went to bed, and that's how the packing took place. So these kind of chaotic condition were there whenever they started packing. So that's how they packed, and you can understand how their packing would be, and would it be organized. So you will definitely say no, it can never be organized. So you must not learn it, and you must pack anything in an organized way. So hopefully you will have understood about the lesson.